She did it again. Right in front of me. That smug smile, that little click of her charger, and the hum of her Tesla feeding off my solar power. I stood on my porch, coffee in hand, watching the cables snake from my solar grid to her shiny white car parked halfway on my property. She didn't even glance at me, like I didn't exist. Like my house, my fence, my bills, none of it mattered. Good morning, neighbor, she said sweetly, waving her manicured hand without looking away from her phone. Just borrowing a little sun energy. You've got plenty. Borrowing. I clenched my jaw. For 3 weeks straight, she'd been doing this. Every morning before work, every evening when she got home, charging her car from my grid, laughing when I told her to stop. The HOA rules were clear. No shared power lines, no tampering with private setups. But she was the head of the HOA. She was the rules. That morning, I decided to confront her properly. Karen, unplug that car right now, I said, stepping closer. That's theft. She turned slowly, those oversized sunglasses hiding her eyes but not her tone. Oh, please. You wouldn't want to cause a scene. Remember the HOA meeting next week. We might have to discuss your non-approved fence color. That fake smile. That fake authority. My hands trembled, not with fear, but anger. She was blackmailing me with her position, thinking I'd stay quiet because she held power in the neighborhood. But what she didn't know was, I built that grid myself. Custom voltage system. Smart power tracking. Every watt had a signature. Later that night, I saw her again, sneaking out in her robe, plugging the Tesla in when she thought everyone was asleep. The nerve. I opened my tablet and pulled up the live feed. She didn't know I'd installed a new monitoring unit that morning. My screen flashed. Unauthorized connection detected. That's when the idea hit me. I could have called the cops, but no. Not yet. I wanted her caught. Exposed. I adjusted the voltage limiter, just a little higher. Not dangerous, but enough to make her learn a lesson. The screen blinked. The car's charger sparked, and I saw her jump back, yelling, "What the? Why is it doing that?" I muted the camera feed, watching her panic. A few seconds later, her Tesla's alarm went off. Lights flashing. Battery error code on the screen. She ran back to her house, barefoot, screaming something about sabotage. I leaned back in my chair, heart racing. For the first time, it wasn't me being scared. It was her. What she didn't know was that the footage of her trespassing, stealing power, and lying to the HOA, was already being backed up to my cloud drive. And tomorrow, I was going to use it. The next morning, I woke up to pounding on my door. I didn't even have to look. I knew it was her. Her voice carried through the wood like nails scraping glass. Open up. You think you can mess with my car and get away with it? I took my time, sipping my coffee before opening the door. She was standing there in her robe again, hair messy, holding her phone like a weapon. Behind her, 2 men in cheap reflective vests stood awkwardly near a white truck that said, Neighborhood Enforcement. Who are they? I asked calmly. They're HOA field officers, she said proudly. We're here to inspect your solar setup. It's illegally modified. You've been reported. I almost laughed. Reported? By who? You. She smirked. Doesn't matter. You'll get a fine, and we might have to cut your connection until further notice. That'll teach you to tamper with HOA-approved systems. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Karen, those men aren't with the HOA. I know all official contractors in this county. And that truck doesn't even have plates. One of the so-called officers shifted uncomfortably. Ma'am, maybe we should. Shut up. She snapped. Do your job. That's when I noticed one of them glancing toward my security cameras. I smiled. You guys might want to look up, I said, pointing to the red light blinking above my porch. You're being recorded. The sheriff's department monitors this feed in real time. Karen froze. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone and tapped a button. The live feed appeared, showing her and her officers on screen. You see that? I said, tilting it toward her. That's you trespassing, again. And this time, with fake enforcers. Her face drained of color. You can't prove they're fake. Oh, I can, I said. Because one of them just scanned my equipment with a barcode app from the App Store. The man stammered, listen, we were just told to check. Enough. She yelled, glaring at him. You'll ruin everything. That's when the sheriff's cruiser pulled up at the curb. She spun around, eyes wide, as the officer stepped out. We got a call about an unauthorized inspection, he said, hand on his belt. Karen straightened her robe and put on her fake smile again. Oh, thank goodness you're here, officer. He's been stealing power from the HOA grid and attacked my car system. The officer turned to me. Sir, is that true? I calmly handed him my tablet. No, officer. But you might want to see this video. He pressed play. Karen's voice filled the air, just borrowing a little sun energy. You've got plenty. Followed by last night's footage, her sneaking into my yard and plugging her car in. The officer watched in silence, then looked up slowly. Ma'am, you realize this is evidence of trespassing and power theft. She stuttered, no, that's not me. I almost felt bad. Almost. Then her Tesla alarm went off again from the driveway, blaring loud enough for half the neighborhood to hear. Every curtain in every house started moving. People were watching. Phones came out. And that's when Karen whispered, almost trembling, you don't know who you're dealing with. I leaned in just a little and said quietly, oh, I think I do. You just don't know who I am yet. Her face tightened as if those words punched through her calm mask. She stepped back, clutching her phone, whispering into it furiously. The sheriff ordered the two fake officers to stay put, but one of them bolted down the street. The other froze, stammering that he didn't know it was illegal. Karen tried to cover it up, shouting, they're contractors. Temporary HOA staff. The officer raised a brow. Then why are they running, ma'am? Karen didn't answer. She turned and pointed straight at me, voice shaking. He's manipulating the footage. He's got illegal surveillance tech, that's why his grid sparks. He's dangerous. I sighed, rubbing my temple. Karen, please stop. You're making this worse. Her voice cracked. You think you can humiliate me? You have no idea who my brother is. He works for the State Energy Commission. He'll shut this whole system down. That made me smile, coldly this time. Oh really? I said. That's interesting, because I helped build that system. And if your brother's who I think he is, he's been using the wrong calibration codes for months. Her eyes flickered with confusion. What are you talking about? I took a slow step forward. I'm not just some homeowner with a few panels, Karen. I'm an electrical engineer. Retired military contractor. I designed these solar grids for half the state's emergency backup networks. The sheriff looked up sharply. You worked for the Federal Energy Division. 8 years, I said, keeping my eyes on Karen. So if anyone's authorized to modify a grid, it's me. Her jaw dropped, but she recovered fast. That's ridiculous. You're lying. I turned my tablet around again and tapped another file. A short clip played. Her voice from the HOA meeting last month. I don't need permits when I am the permit. The crowd behind her gasped. That video had been quietly recording from the HOA livestream. Guess you forgot about that open mic, I said softly. Neighbors started gathering outside their houses now, whispering. Phones were up again, catching everything. The officer called for backup. Karen's face turned red, then pale. You can't show that. It's a violation of privacy. She shouted, trembling. I leaned closer, lowering my voice just enough so only she could hear. You plugged your Tesla into a federal grid, Karen. The moment you touched that cable, it became public evidence. Her hands shook. For the first time, she looked unsure, cornered. Then, as if on cue, a small explosion popped from her driveway. The Tesla's charger port sparked and smoked. She screamed, backing away as the sheriff rushed to check. I didn't move. I just stood there, watching her realize what she'd done. And in that thick silence, I said the line that would echo through the neighborhood for weeks. You wanted free power, Karen. You just plugged into the wrong man's current. The smoke from her Tesla curled up into the morning air, the smell of burnt plastic mixing with panic. Karen stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't decide whether to scream or deny reality. Neighbors started filming openly now, some whispering, some chuckling. The same people who once feared her wall letters were now watching her fall apart in real time. The sheriff's radio crackled. Dispatch, we have a code 4-2, possible property damage, civilian dispute escalating. He looked at Karen. Ma'am, step back from the vehicle. Karen turned to him, desperate. That man sabotaged my car. He's been trying to ruin me ever since I told him his fence violated HOA standards. I folded my arms, letting her dig her own hole. You trespassed, stole power, and now you're blaming me for your own wiring mistake. You rigged it. She shouted, voice cracking. You said it yourself. You changed the voltage. The officer narrowed his eyes. You heard him after trespassing, correct? She blinked, confused by the question. What? That's not the point. It is the point, he said, his tone steady. He has multiple recordings of you admitting to using his grid without consent. And those fake officers you brought here. They're under custody now. Her expression collapsed. They're not fake. They had outstanding warrants, he interrupted. And their truck was reported stolen 2 weeks ago. The color drained from her face completely. She looked around, realizing every eye on the street was fixed on her, some angry, some gleeful. I stepped forward, my voice calm but sharp. You used your HOA power to bully everyone on this block. But now, you're just another trespasser caught on camera. She backed away slowly, muttering, this isn't over, I'll fix this. I'll fix everything. Sure, I said softly. Fix your Tesla first. The sheriff gave her a citation and told her to expect an official investigation. She stumbled toward her front door, clutching her phone like it was her last weapon. The moment she slammed it shut behind her, the neighborhood broke into quiet laughter. Mrs. Dunn from across the street called out, guess solar karma's real after all. I smiled, but deep down I knew Karen wouldn't stop there. She'd lost face, and people like her don't forgive humiliation, they hunt for revenge. That evening, as I reviewed the footage one last time, a notification popped up on my tablet. New connection request detected, HOA internal server. I frowned. Karen was trying to hack into my system. I leaned closer to the screen, my heartbeat steadying. All right, Karen, I whispered. You want another round? Let's make it bright. The night turned heavy, the kind of silence that feels alive. I sat in my study, lights dim, watching lines of code flicker across my tablet. Karen's attempt to breach my system had triggered my defense protocols. Every move she made was bouncing back to me in real time. She was trying to erase the footage, maybe destroy the proof. She had no idea she was digging her own grave. My screen pinged again. Unauthorized user traced. HOA server ID, Karen. M. Got you. I opened the security feed and saw her inside her living room, pacing, phone pressed to her ear. Her voice was frantic. Yes. I need the footage gone. That video will ruin me, do something. Her words froze me for a moment. Not because of fear, but because of how desperate she sounded. She'd built her little empire on control, on rules and fake authority, and now, in one day, it had all collapsed. I pressed a single command on my keyboard. Public backup upload, active. Within seconds, the video files synced to a public server, timestamped and verified. No one could touch them now, not even her. Across the street, her lights flickered. I could imagine her realizing she'd lost again. I didn't need to see it. The next morning, a news van showed up at the entrance of our neighborhood. Reporters were interviewing neighbors. HOA president under investigation for power theft and impersonation of authority. The footage I'd uploaded was already viral, millions of views overnight. Karen's house was quiet, curtains drawn, her Tesla gone. By noon, the sheriff knocked on her door with a warrant. She came out slow, her robe replaced with a gray hoodie, eyes hollow. No yelling this time. Just silence as she was escorted into the cruiser. The same neighbors who once trembled at her wall letters stood outside watching. Nobody cheered. They didn't need to. Justice had a quiet kind of satisfaction. When the van pulled away, I turned back to my porch, feeling the sun warm against my face. The solar grid hummed steady, clean, uninterrupted. I looked at the sky and smiled. I didn't fight to power this country, I murmured, just to have someone steal my light. And for the first time in months, the neighborhood felt free.